The great hall of the palace stretched so high that clouds sometimes formed near its ceiling. Pillars of white crystal held up the roof, and light from 3 distant suns poured through windows as tall as mountains. Everything in this place was made for giants. Felt very small. He walked 3 steps behind Princess Lyra, his boots clicking on the polished floor. The sound was too loud in the quiet hall. Every alien noble turned to look at him, and he could feel their eyes moving up and down his body. He knew what they were thinking. They were thinking about how short he was, how thin, how breakable. Humans had only joined the Galactic Assembly 5 years ago. In that time they had earned a reputation, not for strength, not for technology, not for war. Humans were known for being fragile. They broke easily. They died quickly. They needed air and water and food in exact amounts or their bodies would fail. Was here as a translator, nothing more. He spoke 14 languages, including the difficult clicking tongue of the. That was his only value. Princess Lyra had requested a human translator because she found their languages interesting. She collected rare things, and humans were rare. The princess walked with her head held high. She was tall like all. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes were solid silver with no pupils. Long white hair fell down her back like a waterfall of silk. She wore a dress made of light itself, shifting colors with each step she took. Had worked for her for 8 months now. In that time he had learned many things about her. She was kind even though she did not have to be. She asked him questions about Earth, about human food, about human music. She laughed at his jokes, even the bad ones. She treated him like a person, not a pet. This made him different from most humans in the Empire. Many aliens kept humans as curiosities. They displayed them at parties. They showed them off like exotic birds. But Lyra was not like that. She saw something in humans that others missed. Today was the day of 3 suns. It was the most important holiday in the calendar. Nobles from across the empire had gathered in the palace to celebrate. The empress herself would speak at sunset. Until then, there would be feasting and dancing and displays of power. Stayed close to Lyra as she moved through the crowd. He translated when she spoke to foreign dignitaries. He kept his voice low and his head down. He tried to be invisible. But it was hard to be invisible when everyone was staring at you. A group of nobles blocked their path. They were a warrior race known for their size and their cruelty. The tallest one looked down at with 4 yellow eyes. His mouth split into a smile that showed rows of sharp teeth. "Princess," they said, "I see you have brought your pet." Lyra did not flinch. "Is my translator, he serves the crown." A human serving the crown. They laughed. Others joined him. "What will you do if someone steps on him? Will you get a new one?" Felt his face grow hot. He wanted to speak, but he knew better. Speaking would only make things worse. So he stood still and kept his eyes on the floor. "Is under my protection," Lyra said. Her voice was cold now. "Any insult to him is an insult to me." They stopped laughing. He looked at the princess for a long moment. Then he stepped aside and let them pass. Lyra did not look back. She kept walking and followed. When they were far enough away, she spoke in a soft voice that only he could hear. "I am sorry," she said. "They should not speak to you that way." "It is fine, princess. I am used to it." "That makes it worse, not better." Did not know what to say, so he said nothing. They reached the center of the great hall, where a platform of floating crystal held the royal family. The empress sat on a throne made of living starlight. She was ancient and powerful, her face showing the lines of 1,000 years. Beside her sat the emperor, silent and watchful, and around them stood guards in armor that could stop a plasma blast. Lyra climbed the steps to join her family, stayed at the bottom where the servants waited. He found a spot near a pillar and tried to make himself small. The celebration continued. Music filled the air, strange and beautiful. Dancers moved across the floor like water flowing over stone. Food was served on plates that floated by themselves. Wine was poured from bottles that never emptied. Watched it all with quiet wonder. He had seen many amazing things since leaving Earth, but the palace still took his breath away. Everything here was so beautiful, so perfect, so far beyond anything humans could build. He thought about his home, about the small apartment where he grew up, about his mother who had cried when he left for the stars, about his father who had told him to be brave. "Make us proud," his father had said. "Show them what humans can do." But what could humans do? They could not fight like they could not build like they could not live for thousands of years like the Empress. Humans were small and weak and short-lived. The galaxy had no use for them. Sighed and leaned against the pillar. The party would last for many more hours. He would stand here and wait and watch. That was his job. That was all he was good for. He did not notice the shadow moving through the crowd. He did not see the figure in black robes slipping between the dancers. He did not hear the soft hum of a weapon powering up. But he did see the flash of light when the assassin raised his gun. And he did see where the gun was pointing. It was pointing at Princess Lyra. Time seemed to slow down, saw everything with perfect clarity. He saw the assassin's finger on the trigger. He saw Lyra turning, too slow, her silver eyes going wide. He saw the guards reaching for their weapons, too far away to help. And he saw himself. He saw himself running faster than he had ever run in his life. Running toward the princess, toward the gun, toward the bright blue light gathering at the barrel. He did not think about what he was doing. He did not think about dying. He only thought about Lyra, about her kindness, about her smile, about the way she treated him like a person. He would not let her die. He reached her just as the assassin fired. He threw himself in front of her, spreading his arms wide. He felt the blast hit his chest. He felt heat and pain and something breaking inside him. Then he felt nothing at all. The last thing he heard was Lyra screaming his name. Then darkness took him and was gone. The plasma bolt hit in the center of his chest. Blue fire burned through his clothes and into his skin. The force of the blast lifted him off his feet and threw him backward. He crashed into the crystal platform and lay still. The great hall went silent. For one long moment, nobody moved. The music stopped. The dancers froze. Every eye in the room turned toward the small human body lying at the foot of the royal platform. Then chaos erupted. Guards rushed forward with weapons drawn. They surrounded the assassin before he could fire again. He fought back, but there were too many of them. They brought him down hard, pressing his face into the floor. The Empress rose from her throne. Her ancient face showed no emotion, but her hands gripped the arms of her seat until the starlight cracked. "Secure the hall," she commanded. Her voice filled every corner of the room. "No one leaves until we know who sent him." But Lyra did not hear her mother's orders. She was already running down the steps, her dress of light trailing behind her like a comet's tail. She fell to her knees beside and gathered his broken body in her arms. She said, her voice was shaking, "Please open your eyes, please." He did not respond. His chest was a ruin of burned flesh and blackened bone. The plasma had torn through him completely. No creature could survive such a wound. Not even the strongest warriors in the galaxy could survive a direct hit from a plasma gun. And was just a human, just a small, fragile human. Blood pooled on the crystal floor. It was red, bright red, the color of human life. Lyra had never seen human blood before. She had never seen any blood before. Violence was kept far away from the princess, but now it was here, soaking into her dress, staining her pale blue hands. "Bring the physicians," she screamed. "Someone help him." A physician ran forward and knelt beside them. She pressed her scanner to his body, and her silver eyes went dark with sorrow. "Princess," she said softly, "I am sorry he is gone." "No," Lyra shook her head. "No, he cannot be gone. He was just talking to me. He was just standing right there. He cannot be gone." The wound is too severe. His heart has stopped. His brain is without oxygen. Even if we could repair the damage, there is nothing left to save." Lyra looked down at its face. His eyes were closed. He looked peaceful, like he was sleeping, like he might wake up at any moment and ask if she was okay. But she knew he would not wake up. She knew he was dead. He had died for her. He had thrown away his life to save hers. "Why?" she whispered. "Why did you do this?" The physician stood and stepped back. She knew there was nothing more she could do. The human was dead. That was the end of it. But Lyra did not let go. She held his body close to her chest and rocked him gently, like a mother holding a child. Tears fell from her silver eyes and landed on his face. They were the first tears she had ever cried. The nobles watched in silence. They had never seen a member of the royal family weep. They had never seen such emotion from someone so powerful. It made them uncomfortable. It made them look away. The emperor descended from his throne and approached his daughter. He was tall and stern, with a face like carved stone. He had never approved of Lyra's interest in humans. He had never understood why she kept one so close. But now, looking at his daughter's pain, he began to understand. "Lyra," he said gently, "you must let him go. There is nothing you can do." "He saved my life, father." He jumped in front of the blast. He did not even hesitate. "I saw." He was just a translator. He was not a soldier. He was not trained for combat, but he still did it. He still gave his life for mine. The emperor was quiet for a moment. Then he knelt beside his daughter, something he had not done in centuries. "Humans are strange creatures," he said. "We have always thought them weak. We have always thought them inferior. But perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps there is a strength in them that we do not understand." Lyra looked up at her father. Her eyes were red from crying. "What kind of strength?" "The strength to love something more than yourself. The strength to die for what you believe in. We live for thousands of years. We are careful with our lives. We do not throw them away for others. But humans live such short lives, and yet they are willing to make them even shorter to protect those they care about. Is that strength, or is it foolishness? Perhaps it is both. Perhaps that is what makes them special." The Empress had joined them now. She stood over the body of the human who had saved her daughter's life. Her face was still without emotion, but her voice was softer than anyone had ever heard. "We will honor him," she said. "He will be buried with the heroes of the Empire. His name will be written in the Hall of the Brave." "Thank you, Mother," Lyra said. "But it is not enough. Nothing will ever be enough." The guards dragged the assassin forward. He was one of their own people. His face was twisted with hatred as he looked at the royal family. "You should thank me," he spat. "I was trying to cleanse the bloodline. Your daughter has grown too close to these animals. She has forgotten her place. She has forgotten what she is." The Empress raised her hand and the guards fell silent. She walked slowly toward the assassin, her dress of starlight trailing behind her. "You tried to kill my daughter," she said. "You failed. A human stopped you. A creature you call an animal saved the princess of the Empire. It was luck, nothing more." "Was it?" The Empress smiled, and it was not a kind smile. "He saw your weapon. He saw where you were aiming, and he chose to die in her place. That is not luck. That is something else, something you will never understand." She turned away from him. "Take him to the dark cells. He will face justice in the morning." The guards dragged him away. His screams echoed through the hall until a door closed and cut them off. Lyra still held his body. She had not moved. She could not bring herself to let him go. "Princess," the physician said, "we should take him to the healing chamber. We can. Prepare him for burial." "Wait," Lyra frowned. She had felt something, a flutter beneath her fingers, a tiny movement in his chest. "Princess." "I felt something, his heart, I think it moved." "That is impossible. He has been dead for several minutes. The human body cannot survive without." "I know what I felt. Lyra pressed her hand harder against chest, and there it was again, a beat, weak and slow but real, a heartbeat. By the three suns, the physician breathed. She pressed her scanner to his body again, her eyes went wide. This cannot be. His heart is beating, his brain is active, he is alive. How? The Emperor demanded. You said he was dead. You said there was nothing left to save. There was nothing left to save. The wound was fatal, the damage was complete, and yet, she looked at the scanner again as if she could not believe what she was seeing. And yet he is healing. His cells are regenerating. His body is repairing itself. The great hall erupted in whispers. Nobles pressed forward trying to see. Guards held them back. Everyone wanted to witness the impossible. A human was coming back from the dead. And no one understood how. 3 days passed. Lay in the royal healing chamber, surrounded by machines that watched every breath he took. Tubes ran into his arms, feeding him liquids that kept his body strong. Lights moved over his chest, scanning the wound that should have killed him. The wound that was now almost gone. Physicians came and went at all hours. They ran tests. They took samples. They studied their scanners with confusion and wonder. None of them could explain what they were seeing. None of them understood how a human could survive a direct plasma blast. But survive he had, more than survive. He was healing at a rate that all logic. Princess Lyra never left his side. She sat in a chair beside his bed, watching his face for any sign of waking. She held his hand when no one was looking. She spoke to him in soft whispers, telling him about her day, about the weather, about nothing and everything. You have to wake up, she told him. You cannot save my life and then leave me alone. That is not fair. He did not respond. His eyes stayed closed, his body lay still, but his heart kept beating stronger each day. On the 3rd day, the Empress came to the healing chamber. She stood at the foot of his bed and watched him with ancient eyes. Has there been any change? She asked. His wound is almost fully healed, the head physician reported. In another day, there will be no sign it ever existed. His organs have regenerated. His bones have fused. Even the burns on his skin are fatting. And his mind? We cannot say for certain, Your Majesty, but his brain activity is normal, healthy even. If he wakes, there should be no damage. If he wakes, the Empress repeated, you are not certain he will. No one has ever seen anything like this. We have no way to predict what will happen. His body is doing something we did not know was possible. We can only watch and wait. The Empress nodded slowly. She looked at her daughter, sitting silent and tired beside the human's bed. Lyra, she said, you need to rest. You have not slept in 3 days. I will sleep when he wakes. And if he does not wake for weeks, for months, will you waste away beside him? It will not be a waste. Lyra looked up at her mother with eyes that burned with determination. He saved my life. The least I can do is be here when he opens his eyes. The Empress wanted to argue. She wanted to order her daughter to leave, to eat, to sleep. But she saw something in Lyra's face that stopped her. She saw love. Real love, the kind that does not care about politics or power or propriety. Very well, she said, but I am sending food. You will eat even if you will not sleep. Yes, mother. The Empress left, and Lyra was alone with again. She squeezed his hand and leaned close to his ear. Please wake up, she whispered. I have so much to tell you. The whole empire is talking about what you did. They call you the human shield. They say you are a hero. But I do not care about any of that. I just want you to wake up. I just want to hear your voice again. Hours passed. Night fell over the palace. The 3 suns set one by one, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Lyra watched through the window, her head resting on the edge of his bed. She was starting to drift off when she felt something move. Her eyes snapped open. She looked at his face, searching for any sign of change, and then she saw it. His eyelids were fluttering. His lips were moving, trying to form words. She sat up straight, her heart pounding. "Can you hear me?" His eyes opened. For a moment he just stared at the ceiling, confused and lost. His chest rose and fell with deep breaths. His fingers twitched against the sheets. Then he turned his head and looked at Lyra. "Princess," his voice was rough, like he had not used it in a very long time. "What happened? Where am I?" "You are in the healing chamber. You were hurt. Do you remember?" Frowned. He tried to sit up, but his body was too weak. He fell back against the pillows with a groan. "The assassin," he said. "I remember the assassin. He had a gun. He was going to shoot you." "Yes. I tried to stop him. I ran. I remember running, and then—" He touched his chest where the wound had been. His eyes went wide when he felt only smooth skin. "I remember pain. I remember dying." "You did die," Lyra said. Her voice was shaking now, full of emotion she had been holding back for 3 days. "Your heart stopped. Your brain stopped. The physicians said you were gone, but then you came back, you healed. No one can explain it." Looked at his hands. He turned them over, studying them like they belonged to someone else. "How long have I been here?" 3 days. 3 days, he let out a long breath. It felt like 3 seconds. "You scared me." Tears were falling from Lyra's silver eyes again. "You scared me so much. I thought I had lost you. I thought you were gone forever." "I am sorry." He reached up and touched her face, wiping away a tear with his thumb. "I did not mean to scare you. I could not let him hurt you. I could not stand there and watch you die." "So you died instead." It seemed like a fair trade. Lyra laughed even though she was crying. "You are a fool, a brave, stupid fool." "Maybe, but I am alive. That has to count for something." The doors of the healing chamber burst open. Physicians rushed in, followed by guards and servants and nobles who had been waiting for news. Word had spread through the palace that the human was waking. Everyone wanted to see. The head physician pushed through the crowd and ran to his bed. She pressed her scanner to his body and shook her head in disbelief. "Impossible," she muttered. "Simply impossible. His wound is completely healed. There is no scarring, no damage, nothing. It is as if he was never hurt at all." "How do you feel?" one of the other physicians asked. "Thought about it. Hungry," he said. "Very hungry." The crowd laughed. The tension in the room broke like a wave hitting the shore. Even the stern-faced guards were smiling. But then the doors opened again, and everyone fell silent. The Empress entered the healing chamber. She walked slowly, her dress of starlight flowing behind her. The crowd parted before her like water before a ship. She approached his bed and looked down at him with eyes that had seen 1,000 years of history. "Human," she said, "do you know who I am?" Tried to sit up again. This time, Lyra helped him. He managed to prop himself against the pillows, though his arms were shaking with the effort. "Yes, Your Majesty," he said. "You are the Empress of the Empire. I have served in your palace for 8 months. And do you know why I am here?" "No, Your Majesty." The Empress smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it transformed her ancient face. "I am here because you did something remarkable. You saved my daughter's life. You took a wound that should have killed you. And then you did something even more remarkable. You came back from death itself." Did not know what to say, so he said nothing. "Tomorrow," the Empress continued, "you will stand before the entire court. You will tell them what happened. You will show them what you are. And then we will decide what to do with you." She turned and walked away without another word. The crowd followed her, whispering among themselves. Soon the healing chamber was empty except for Lyra and a few physicians who stayed behind to run more tests. "What does she mean?" asked. "What is going to happen tomorrow?" Lyra took his hand and held it tight. "I do not know," she admitted. "But whatever happens, I will be there with you, I promise." Looked into her silver eyes and saw something that made his heart beat faster. something that had nothing to do with his impossible healing. He saw the future, and for the first time in his life he was not afraid. The great hall was more crowded than had ever seen it. Every noble in the empire seemed to have gathered for this moment. They filled the spaces between the crystal pillars. They stood on floating platforms high above the floor. They pressed against the walls, pushing and shoving for a better view. They had all come to see him. Stood at the center of the hall, alone on a platform of white stone. He wore simple clothes, nothing fancy, nothing royal. He was still a translator. He was still a servant. But every eye in the room was fixed on him like he was something precious and strange. The Empress sat on her throne of living starlight. The Emperor was beside her, stern and silent as always. Princess Lyra stood at the bottom of the royal platform, close enough that could see her face. She smiled at him, and he felt a little braver. "Human," the Empress said, her voice echoed through the hall. "You stand before the court of the Empire. 3 days ago you took a plasma blast meant for my daughter. You died, and then you came back to life. Is this true?" "Yes, Your Majesty," said. His voice was steady though his heart was pounding. "It is true." "Tell us what happened. Tell us what you remember." Took a deep breath. He had never spoken to so many people before. He had never been the center of attention. He was a translator. He stood in the shadows and whispered words into ears. He did not stand in bright lights and address empires. But he had no choice now, so he spoke. "I saw the assassin in the crowd," he began. "He was moving toward the royal platform. He had a gun hidden under his robes. I did not know what to do. I was not a soldier. I was not trained for combat. I was just me." The crowd was silent. Every being in the hall leaned forward, listening. "Then I saw him raise the weapon. I saw where he was aiming. He was pointing at Princess Lyra, and I did not think, I just moved. I ran toward her. I threw myself in front of the blast." "You knew you would die?" the Empress asked. "Yes, I knew. Humans cannot survive plasma wounds. Everyone knows that. I knew I was going to die." "And yet you did it anyway. Why?" Was quiet for a moment. He looked at Lyra, standing below the throne. Her silver eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Because she was kind to me," he said finally. "In a galaxy that saw me as weak and small and worthless, she treated me like a person. She asked about my home. She listened to my stories. She laughed at my jokes. She made me feel like I mattered." He turned back to the Empress. "I could not let her die, not when I could do something to stop it, even if that something was dying in her place." The hall was still silent, but the silence had changed. It was no longer curious. It was respectful. The Empress nodded slowly. "And what happened after you were hit?" "I do not remember much. There was pain, a lot of pain, and then darkness. I felt myself falling into something deep and cold. I thought it was death. I thought it was the end." "But it was not the end." "No," shook his head. "I woke up in the healing chamber. 3 days had passed. My wound was gone. I was alive." The Empress raised her hand, and the head physician stepped forward. She was carrying a device that projected images into the air above her head. "Your Majesty," the physician said, "I have completed my analysis of the human. What I found is extraordinary." She touched the device and images appeared in the air. They showed his body, layer by layer, cell by cell. The crowd watched in fascination. When the human was first brought to the healing chamber, his wounds were fatal. The plasma had destroyed his heart, his lungs, most of his chest cavity. By all measures, he was dead. His brain had been without oxygen for several minutes. No known species can survive such damage. "And yet he survived," the Empress said. "How?" "That is what makes this so extraordinary." The physician touched the device again and the images changed. Now they showed tiny structures inside cells. Humans have always been considered weak. Their bodies are fragile. They heal slowly. They die easily, but we were wrong. The crowd murmured. The physician raised her voice to be heard. Hidden inside human cells is something remarkable, a dormant ability that activates only under extreme trauma. When faced with death, human cells can do something we have never seen in any other species. They can regenerate. Regenerate, the Emperor spoke for the first time. You mean like the lizards? No, Your Majesty. They can regrow limbs over months or years. What humans can do is different, faster, more complete. Under the right conditions, human cells can rebuild entire organs in days. They can repair damage that should be permanent. They can bring a body back from the edge of death. The hall erupted in noise. Nobles shouted questions. Guards struggled to maintain order. The Empress raised her hand and silence fell again. How is this possible? She asked. Why have we never seen this before? Because it requires extreme conditions to activate, the physician explained. The trauma must be severe enough to trigger the response. Most humans who are injured badly enough to activate this ability die before it can take effect. Their bodies give up before the regeneration begins. But this human did not give up. No, Your Majesty. He held on. His will to live was strong enough to give his body the time it needed. He survived long enough for the regeneration to begin, and once it began, it could not be stopped. The physician looked at, with something like wonder in her silver eyes. This human is not special, she said. He is not unique. What happened to him could happen to any human. The ability is inside all of them. It has always been inside them. We simply never knew it was there. The crowd fell into stunned silence. They looked at with new eyes. He was no longer a small, fragile creature. He was a member of a species that could cheat death itself. This changes everything, the Emperor said slowly. If all humans have this ability, then they are not weak at all, the Empress finished. They are survivors. They have been surviving on a harsh planet for thousands of years, facing disasters and diseases and wars that would have wiped out other species. And now we know why. They cannot be killed easily. Their bodies refuse to die. She stood from her throne and descended the steps toward. The crowd parted before her. She stopped in front of him and looked into his eyes. Human, she said, you have shown us something we did not know. You have revealed the true nature of your species. For this, the Empire owes you a debt. Bowed his head. I did not do anything special, Your Majesty. I just did not want to die. And that is exactly what makes you special, the Empress smiled. You refused to give up. You fought death itself and won. That is the most human thing I have ever seen. She turned to address the court. Let it be known throughout the Empire. Humans are no longer to be treated as lesser beings. They are survivors. They are warriors in their own way, and they are to be respected. The hall erupted in cheers. Nobles who had mocked humans for years now looked at them with new understanding. Guards who had looked down on now stood at attention as he passed. Everything had changed. And the simple translator who had just wanted to help stood at the center of it all. He did not know what the future held. He did not know what his life would become. But he knew one thing for certain. He was no longer invisible. And neither were the humans of the galaxy. 1 week had passed since the revelation. The Empire was changing. News of the human who came back from death had spread across the stars. Ships carried the story from planet to planet. Broadcasts played it on every screen. Scholars wrote papers about it. Children asked their parents about it. And everywhere, humans were being seen in a new light. On trading stations, merchants who had once ignored humans now welcomed them warmly. On military vessels, commanders who had dismissed humans now asked for their service. On colony worlds, citizens who had looked down on humans now stood beside them as equals. It was not perfect. Change takes time and old beliefs do not die easily, but it was a start, a beginning. And it had all begun with one man. Stood before the mirror in his new quarters. They were larger than his old room, with windows that looked out over the palace gardens. He had been given new clothes, fine fabrics in deep blue and silver. He looked like a noble now, not a servant. It felt strange. There was a knock at his door. He turned and called out, "Come in." Princess Lyra entered. She was wearing a simple dress today, pale lavender that matched the morning sky. Her white hair was loose around her shoulders. She looked beautiful as always. But she also looked nervous. "The ceremony begins in 1 hour," she said. "Are you ready?" "I do not know," looked down at his new clothes. "I am not sure I belong in these. I am still just a translator." "You are much more than that now. You know this." "Do I?" He turned back to the mirror. "I did not ask for any of this. I did not want to be famous. I did not want to be a symbol. I just wanted to help you." Lyra crossed the room and stood beside him. Their reflections looked back at them, side by side. Human and small and tall. Different in every way except for the one that mattered. "Do you regret it?" she asked softly. "Do you wish you had not jumped in front of that blast?" "No," he answered without hesitation. "I would do it again, 1,000 times. I would die for you 1,000 times if I had to." "Please do not say that. I could not watch you die again. Once was enough." Turned to face her. He was shorter than her, had to look up to meet her eyes. But he did not feel small anymore. He had not felt small since he woke up in the healing chamber. "Can I tell you something?" he asked. "Of course." "When I was lying there dying, I was not scared. I was not sad. I was peaceful because I knew I had done something that mattered. I had saved someone I cared about, that was worth dying for." Lyra's silver eyes filled with tears. "Why do you say things like that? Why do you make me cry?" "I am sorry. I did not mean to." "Yes, you did." She laughed through her tears. "You always know exactly what to say. That is why you were such a good translator. You understand words in a way most people do not. Words are easy. Actions are hard. Anyone can say they would die for someone. I actually did it. And lived to tell the story." That part was unexpected. They both laughed. The tension in the room faded. For a moment they were just two people enjoying each other's company. Not a princess and a human. Not a symbol and a hero. Just Lyra and... "I have something for you," Lyra said. She reached into a pocket of her dress and pulled out a small box. A gift for the ceremony. Took the box and opened it. Inside was a medal, shaped like a star with 7 points. It was made of the same living starlight as the Empress's throne. It glowed softly in his hands. "This is the Star of Valor," Lyra explained. "It has only been given to 7 beings in the history of the Empire, warriors who changed the course of wars, leaders who shaped the fate of worlds. And now, you. I cannot accept this. I am not a warrior. I am not a leader." "You are wrong." Lyra took the medal and pinned it to his chest. "You are both. You just do not see it yet." A bell chimed somewhere in the distance. The ceremony was about to begin. Lyra took his hand and led him out of the room. They walked through long hallways lined with guards who bowed as they passed. They crossed bridges of floating crystal and climbed stairs that seemed to go on forever. Finally, they reached the doors of the great hall. The same hall where everything had happened. "Are you ready?" Lyra asked. Took a deep breath. "No, but let us go anyway." The doors opened, and they stepped inside. The hall was even more crowded than before. Nobles from every corner of the empire had gathered to witness this moment. Ambassadors from other species stood in places of honor. Cameras floated in the air, broadcasting the ceremony to every world in the galaxy. The Empress sat on her throne, radiant and ancient. The Emperor stood beside her, his face softer than had ever seen it, and around them the entire court waited in silence. Walked to the center of the hall. His footsteps echoed on the crystal floor. He felt every eye on him, every thought focused on him. It was terrifying. It was overwhelming. But he kept walking. He reached the base of the royal platform and knelt, lowering his head. This was the tradition. When standing before the rulers of the empire, you made yourself small. You showed respect. But the Empress did not let him stay there long. "Rise," she commanded, her voice was kind. "Of Earth, you do not kneel before us, not anymore." Stood slowly, he looked up at the Empress, confused. "You have earned the right to stand as an equal," she continued. "You have shown courage beyond measure. You have revealed truths that will change the galaxy forever. For this, we honor you." She descended from her throne and approached him. In her hands was a scroll, ancient and covered in symbols. "By the authority of the Empire, I name you Ambassador of Humanity. You will speak for your people. You will represent them in our courts. You will be their voice among the stars." His heart was pounding. Ambassador. He had never imagined such a thing. He had never dreamed so high. "Your Majesty," he said, "I am honored, but I am just one man. How can I speak for all of humanity?" "Because you showed us what humanity truly is. Not weak, not fragile, strong in ways we never understood. You are the best of your species, and your species deserves to be represented by its best." She pressed the scroll into his hands. It was warm, like it was alive. "Do you accept this duty?" Thought about his home, about Earth, small and blue, spinning in a distant corner of the galaxy, about his mother and father who had told him to make them proud, about all the humans who had been treated as lesser, as weak, as worthless. "I accept," he said. The hall erupted in applause. Nobles cheered. Guards stamped their feet. The sound was deafening, overwhelming, incredible. But through all the noise, only heard one voice. Lyra was standing at the edge of the crowd, her silver eyes bright with joy. She was clapping harder than anyone, her smile wider than the sky. "Thank you," she mouthed across the distance. Smiled back. "No," he mouthed in return. "Thank you." The ceremony continued. Speeches were made. Promises were given. The future of humanity and the galaxy was changed forever. But was not thinking about any of that. He was thinking about a moment not long ago when he had been nobody, a translator, a servant, a small human in a galaxy of giants. And now he was something more. Not because he had special powers, not because he was chosen by fate, but because he had made a choice. He had chosen to act. He had chosen to protect someone he loved, and that choice had changed everything. Later that night, when the crowds had gone and the palace was quiet, stood on a balcony overlooking the gardens. The three suns were setting, painting the sky in colors he had no names for. Lyra joined him. She stood close enough that their shoulders touched. "So," she said, "Ambassador of Humanity, how does it feel?" "Terrifying," he admitted. "I have no idea what I am doing." "Neither did I when I became a princess. You learn as you go." "Is that advice?" "It is encouragement." She turned to face him. "You will be wonderful, I know it." He looked at her, this alien princess who had changed his life. This being from another world who had shown him kindness when no one else would. "Lyra," he said, "can I tell you one more thing?" "Of course." "I did not jump in front of that blast just because you were kind to me. That is part of it, but there is more." "What more?" He took a deep breath. This was harder than dying. This was harder than anything. "I jumped because I love you," he said. "I have loved you since the day we met, and I could not watch you die, not when I could stop it, not when I could save you." Lyra was silent for a long moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. "I know," she said softly. "I have always known, and I love you too. I have since the moment you made me laugh with that terrible joke about the three suns. It was a good joke. It was awful, but I loved it anyway. I loved you anyway." They stood together on the balcony as the sun set and the stars came out. Human and ambassador and princess. Two beings from different worlds, connected by something stronger than species or politics or fate. Connected by love. And somewhere across the galaxy, humans were looking up at the same stars. They were hearing stories of the man who died and came back. They were learning that they were not weak. They were not inferior. They were survivors. They were humanity. And their story was just beginning.